Today we're going to have the gadget deck profile from the 2 duels we had earlier.
Hey guys.
And he did one like months ago, but it's changed so much.
What's my name?
George.
Hey guys.
Yeah. And here he goes.
Alright, not all common anymore either.
Yeah, it's a little shinier than last time.
Legendary collection.
Okay, so I'm running Machina Gadgets. It's a deck that I've ran for the past 3 years. Very nice. I like it. The reasons why I run it is very consistent. It's pretty strong format to format. And nothing from the ban list really hits it. It's just nice. I like it. Yes. Alright, getting with the deck.
Don't shake the table.
I run 3 of each gadget, which is a little bit different than most people run because I know they're running 6 gauge, which is basically running less gadgets but more other random generic stuff that's good against meta. Like, I know some builds run 2 of each gadget and then they'll main Max Season Tragodias or the main Gores, and some even run Grand Soil, which I really don't like in the main. With my build, it's just basically gadgets and machinas, not any of that extra stuff, but I do side into it depending on what is popular in my locals. So yeah, I'm running 3 just because it sets up really nice plays with all of my other cards. 3 Fortress, 3 Gear Frame, 2 Force. This is it for the monsters. It's just literally machinas and gadgets. Obviously want to run 3 Gear Frame and 3 Fortress because this is your power cards. Only around like Gadget Exceed spam with like Tin Goldfish and Iron Call and others, a bunch of other herp derp make a bunch of Exceeds on the field. Do they run less of Gear Frame because it doesn't get a special summon trigger, which they would use with Tin Goldfish or something. Plus, you can always recycle Gear Frames from the graveyard with Gigant. I like 2 Force just because the build of Machina Gadgets that I run, it actually used to run Scrap Recycler. I unfortunately cut him because he was a little bit slow, and he was a little weak compared to all the other stuff that got really popular, like Mermails and like Bear would run over and destroy it, which still happens to Gadgets, but still. So I like Force because it's a searchable monster reborn. Since my deck is basically also using Gear Frame to a full potential with more back row than the other Exceed spam builds, I'm using him just because, again, it's a searchable monster reborn. It's really strong, and it's a good play that your opponent doesn't always know that you have. So that's it for monsters. For spells and traps, obvious staples. 3 MST, because gadgets are always about 1-for-1ing an advantage, so clearing back row is almost essential to make sure your plays get off. I really like 3 as opposed to 2. Avarice and Mind Control. Avarice is almost a given. You're going to be filling up your graveyard so quickly with gadgets. And Mind Control is really good against stuff like Bear, Thunder Kings, other lingering level 4s that could really put a damper on your strategies. Also in the main, I main 3 Lance. It's really good when your opponent has that Deep Prison or Bottomless for your Fortress or that Compulse for your Gigant. It's really, really strong because, especially with Fortress, because they can lance them and you can still run into things and get the pop off. Like, even if they do chain the Deep Prison or Mirror Force to his attack, you can still lance them and then pop something with Fortress. So it's almost like you're 1-for-1ing the Spell and Trap with lands, and then you're 1-for-1ing the monster with Fortress. It's also really good against the Battle Destruction guys like Guaibas and Shuras and Thunder Kings. It's another out to Thunder King as well, which really, really hurts this deck. That's it for spells. It's pretty trap heavy. 2 Bottomless, 2 Torrential, 2 Deep Prison. Not meaning Mirror Force, just because that Mirror Force and Deep Prison are kind of a bit slow in the fact that they can get popped off. It wasn't as slow as to the point where, like, in Executor formats where they can just and destroy everything on your field. But also, Deep Prison is a better out to, I'd say, like Thunder King or like a Bear or something, even though they can just go Torghast level, you bring it back. But I mean, Monster Born is always relevant. And plus, even though Deep Prison only hits single cards, it hits them more permanently, because your opponent can always sack the Reborn and just go hard. Also, at times, I'm really not going to be swarming unless I'm making a really, really aggressive push. So it's basically one monster that I'm trying to get safe and clear on the board. Alright, sweet. 2 Phoenix Chain. I really like Phoenix Chain in this format. It's
2 chains!
God. Damn.
I couldn't stay quiet for that long.
There it is. Yes, I do main 2 chains! It's really good against Mermails and Fire Fist. Mermails, especially when they go discard Marksman and then get their search effect with Abystius or Megalo. It's a great chainable. It's also really good against stuff like Xian, other big guys like Lagia. You can just, you know, Torrent Phoenix Chain, Bottomless Phoenix Chain, stuff like that. That'll be easier to get them off the board. Also, if my opponent has another Threatening Thunder King, which is a great hindrance to this deck, it puts opponent's monsters on hold, especially if we're just literally trying to dig for outs, and if I want to have a gadget and set up another Xyz play next turn, Phoenix Chain stops the monster from the attack, which is another good aspect of it. I like Phoenix Chain over Veiler, just because, again, for the attack stopping. Also, Veiler is kind of situational for the main phase, but even though it does stop Rabbit and Torguide and stuff, even though it does stop stuff that activates on the field, it's... Stop it. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though Phoenix Chain doesn't stop effects that activate on the field, stuff like Rabbit and Torguide, you can have your other traps as outs to the monsters that they bring, like the Bottomlesses and Torrents for the Vanillas, or the Bottomless or Torrential for when like Leviair hits the field or something stupid. Even though this is susceptible to MSD, still the attack negation, or the attack stopping is really, really strong. To Call the Haunted, I run 3 gadgets, so searching gadgets is always really good, especially when I go Summon Gadget and then Reborn another gadget with a Call the Haunted or a Monster Reborn. That gives me 2 gadgets in hand, which is essentially another Monster Reborn for a Fortress. There have been times where I've had Reborn or Call the Haunted set, and instead of getting that Fortress, it's so much better to get the gadget, because you go Reborn the gadget, normal summon the gadget that you searched, and then you can go off from there. It's also really strong when you have side deck cards like Thunder King, because your opponent will try and like Dark Hole your Thunder King, then activate a Smoke Signal. You can also Call the Haunted that monster back. Or against Mermails or something, when they try and Dark Hole your Banisher of the Radiance, you just Call the Haunted back. Offering. I was really, really against this card, just because it was so dead the times that I ran it. But I'm beginning to see that this card is really, really good. It's your, essentially, gateway. If you resolve this with a gadget in hand, it's almost ensured victory. And since I am running 3 gadgets, it's just so relevant. Especially with that Gusto Emerald, too, because you can just shuffle back your gadgets and end up paying 5 to tribute summon a Fortress from your hand that you search from a gear frame, which you got from a Gigan, which you got from a gadget. All it is. I remember playing my friend Ryan Jones. Shout out to Ryan Jones and Team Top Deck.
Ratbox.
Ratbox, yes. Ratbox Ryan. My only 2 cards were Red Gadget and Ultimate Offering, and this resolved. And my end field was Shockmaster, 2 Gear Gigants with 2 gear frames equipped to them, and 2 Fortresses on my field. It's pretty stupid. It's your 1-card win button. Hopefully if it resolves, then it's good. If not, they MST it, and you have other traps that they didn't MST. So, all in all, it's a great card. Solemn Duo, almost completely necessary, and then Starlight, because a lot of our people locals like sacking, and also it's really good to feel safe when you go Summon Gadget set 4 pass. For the extra deck, I was maining Chimera Tech, but I ended up cutting it for deck space, and also I really don't side Cyber Dragon, so even if my opponent does side and I do have a Monster Reborn, it's not like I can use this for the fusion material. Catastor, Stardust, in the event that my opponent does have Veiler, game 1 and I have Monster Reborn, or if I do side into Veiler, Catastor is another good card that's just good at clearing stuff. And also the obvious Stardust because I run Starlight. 2 Gear Gains. They're obviously mandatory, but they cannot be used if you are running a budget build. You just have to play a little bit differently. The build that I'm running, again, it's really just gear frame spam. Get as much as you can on the field, but not really to the aspect that it is more conservative. Gear Gain's a great card. It gets gear frame. It's beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Utopia and Utopia Ray. What's good about this is that a lot of people don't suspect Utopia Ray, so even if late game in those weird circumstances that you have just only a Utopia available to make, getting Utopia Ray and beating over stuff is really relevant. Also, if you have Ultimate Offering and your opponent has an attack position monster, you can just keep paying life points with Ultimate Offering to get the additional normal summon in order to make your opponent's in order to make your life points 1,000 or less, then make him to beat over stuff. That's also happened. Another reason that I run it. My Stroke and Papal Operative, Black Ship of Corn. Just cards to get over opponent stuff. My Stroke is really good if you think your opponent has a Torrent, or you're setting up your own torrential plays, or a Mirror Force. It's also good to flip stuff down, obviously, to clear like a Shien or something. Piebald Operative's good. Even though Spear Reaper doesn't see that much play, seeing defense monsters can be really unfortunate. And like a Marshmallow or something, and there's really no outs, so you just have to beat over it and beat over it. Corn is good against like Gachi, Zen Mains, Maestro, all the obvious stuff, and also some other stuff that can get in your way, like other defense position monsters that you'd rather make. Roach and Dweller. I like running Roach because there have been more like Karakuris and other weird stuff at our locals, but again, this is just the daily call, because I'll have stuff like Fairy King, Alverdike, and Gemini Pearl on me. In the event that I don't see my like opponents running anything that would cause Roach to be necessary, then I'll just swap them out for something else. Dweller is almost always relevant. There are 2 Mermail players at our locals, and also Giant Rat deck. So any other stuff that activates in the graveyard, it's always good to save. It's always good to be safe. You can run over Tengus, TG stuff, anything that's really awkward. Cowboy and Shockmaster. Cowboy's almost a given. You know, extra deck card, good for getting in life, or good for beating over stuff. Shockmaster because you have Ultimate Offering, and against other stuff that is really heavily reliant on monster effects like Mermails, or really spell reliant like Spellbooks. Spell in the name, go figure. Big Eye, yay money. And Gaia Dragon. I like running Big Eye because, you know, you have a searchable Big Eye, which is really stupid. If you resolve 2 gear frames, then it's almost like you're searching out Big Eye from your deck. It's a very powerful card. And since you're on lands, stuff like Compulse, Bottomless is really not effective against Big Eye. I also run Gaia Dragon because I've had Big Eye plays where I've taken a Gorz or taken like an Abyss Megalo, and I've had the option to either pitch 2 gadgets, Call the Haunted, or Reborn another fortress from my graveyard. So running this is really good in the meantime. He'll probably be dropped for Mecha Phantom Beast Dragosack, who's another amazing card on its own. Yeah, it's seeing a lot of stupid plays because of Elemental Dragons, but he'll probably be dropped for him. I have beaten over a Marshmallow for game, though, with his Piercing. That's pretty cool. That's the extra deck. Going on to the side deck. The side deck has always changed depending on what I see at the tournaments at locals. This isn't prepared for a like regional or something where I would side Veilers, Maxis, anything awkward like hand traps like that. But what I have for the locals currently, there's a big Sam Spike. So there's maybe what,
Big's
4 or 5?
not the word. No, like 7 or 8.
Logan's pretty big.
Easy guess. So yeah, there are a lot of Sam players at locals. So this is basically a tune to that. Secret Thunder King. I don't like common as much. I know. I took my brother's.
I like to spend all my money.
No, Thunder King is just a really good card, even though it is kind of counterintuitive to run it in a deck that it almost completely shuts down. Sitting on a Thunder King and sitting on back row is one of the most strong plays. Like, before the days of Logia set 4 pass, it was Thunder King set 5 pass. You know, it is just an amazing card on its own. You're always going to get, at least 1-for-1 with Thunder Kings. Even if you hit a Deep Prison or hit a Bottomless or something, still, it's just stuff that could have been used to stop a Fortress. Also, you can just sit on him, make your opponent cry as they draw cards and can't do anything. Beautiful card. 3 Puppet Plants. Again, Sam's everywhere, so this is kind of relevant. Also, Spellbooks. You can pitch it, grab a Priestess, which is pretty relevant as well. Yeah, make level 7 plays with Fortress. But yeah, it's really good just to take a Shien and to go off. Or take a Shien and like try and tribute someone into crash it or do something with it. So basically, you know, it stops your opponent or hinders your opponent from going off. It was a really old side deck card, so that. 3 Banishers. I like Banisher against Mermail because, or more so than Defissure or Macro against them, because if I ever need to, my Banishers can be better saved with back row that I run. In the instance that like they have an MST or something for a Defissure or a Macro that I would have sided, there's really much that I don't stop it with aside from Solemn. So protecting Banisher is a lot easier unless they like Dark Hole, I can Lance it. If they try and beat over it, I can Bottomless or deprison their monster when they go to attack it, even if they somehow get a monster on the field, like Mermails that is. Also good against Chaos Dragons. I really like it as a card. It's gained a lot of popularity because of that stupid ass deck of Mermails, but it's a great card. Also, if I ever need to go off, I do have in the combination of a main and side 3 Fiendish Chains. There have been instances where I've Phoenix Chain my own Banisher, and just gone off, put a bunch of fortresses on the field just by drawing into them. This was really stupid. 2 Dust, always relevant. You never know what you're gonna fight against, like Decrees, level limit area Bs. My parents have not stopped fucking. Yeah, Decrees.
Tanky.
Yeah, that stuff. Tanky, even that. Big backrow decks like GBs. You can side in against Mermails when you're going first in the game, so you can hit their Abyss Spheres more relevantly. 3rd Phoenix Chain and Breakthrough Skill. I actually haven't gotten this off yet. I know there's a lot of hype around this card, but having the 2-time negation is really good, especially against Sams. When you're going to like summon a gadget and torrent yourself, you can Breakthrough Skill their Xian on during your turn, which is pretty relevant. Also, the fact that it negates activations is pretty good. So when they try and like Rabbit or something, it's good to have against them. Also, another Phoenix Chain, just for the reason of attack stopping. The stopping effects is basically the name of the game. At the moment, I don't run Valor in the side deck, so I'm running this stuff because traps. And then 3 Mind Crush. It's really good against anything. It's almost similar to the fact that Prohibition is a relevant card in the side deck. You never know what your opponent's going to have, and you never know how this is going to hurt them. Especially good against Mermails when they ditch. They don't get a special summon if you call the card in their hand. It's also good for searching decks like Sam's, Fire Fist to an extent, even though there are stronger cards to have against them. Mirror Match, hitting gadgets, hitting fortresses is always relevant. Yeah, that's my current side deck at the moment. It seems pretty strong against Sam's, because I do really hate that deck.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alright, so that was Machina Gadgets of the March 2013 format. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was a good...
It was a blast.
It was a blast. Boom, this guy. That's so stupid.
Reprinted Ultimate.